Hello, everybody. My name is Vince Moffitt, and I'm the chairman of the Four Corners Economic Development. FORSED here in Farmington, New Mexico. We represent the entire region and all things economic development. A couple of months ago, my CEO, Tim Gibbs, and I did our first ever podcast on economic development. And really our goal is to pick different topics to maybe educate the community on what's happening here locally, as well as how economic development really works. I have two great guests with me today, Mr. Cody Dill and Mr. Milo McMinn from Farmington Municipal Schools. And one of the things that's really great about these two gentlemen is they came and talked at one of our quarterly breakfasts recently about some of the workforce development things that we're doing at the schools. And then I later heard you talk at the chamber board meeting. And then I think you guys just presented at the energy conference as well. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about economic development is, you know, I think a lot of people just assume that we can call Panera and say, hey, come to our community. But all of these businesses really require an entrepreneur or an investor who's looking to invest in our community and trying to bring them here. And they look at so many different factors. It gets really complicated. But I think one of the big ones is the workforce. And workforce development really needs to start at a young age, and you guys are doing a great job in the schools. So I'd just like to talk about that program. If you guys could share some information about what you're doing.
Well, thanks for having us. But we appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, you're right. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to Mr. McMinn. He's really been a driver around pathways and CTE opportunities for our students. But you're absolutely right. And the student of today is different, much different, even than the student of 5 years ago. Certainly significantly different than when we grew up. And what school looks like. What school looks like hasn't really changed a ton, but that's what we're trying to do is create opportunities for students and give them the skills to do whatever it is that they want to do. But the opportunities need to continue to expand. And Mr. McMinn will dig even deeper into it, but really proud of the work that they're doing. And they're even pushing it down into our middle schools to start that process. And even if it's on VR headsets or soft skills, teaching those things where a student could walk into a Panera and be employable, just to have those skills of being able to look somebody in the eye, have conversations. One of the things that and I appreciate our school board and legislation this year of removing some technology from our classrooms, cell phones. And what I've seen transform over the course of 3 months in school is students talking to each other, having face-to-face conversation, resolving conflicts without the use of technology. So some really cool things happening in Farmington schools, but digging deep into what the next generation of workers looks like, Mr. McMinn and his team are doing an amazing job, and I'll let him talk even more, but proud of that work. And Mr. McMinn is the one who's done that. Yeah, you're right. He did present at the energy conference and good work happening. So
well, and it's kind of interesting because, you know, we have a really good relationship with Selma College for workforce development. If there's a company that comes in and they need something, they will build a program around it. But like you said, pushing it down as early as even the middle school, I think helps develop and prepare them even further, because maybe a lot of these kids aren't going to want to go to college. But we need to make a really good, strong workforce that wants to work and has the skills. So maybe you can explain how you guys are doing that.
Yeah, so we have a plethora of programs, especially I know Cody mentioned the middle schools and some of the VR headsets. One thing, Farmington Schools is always a trailblazer. So whether that's career exploration classes that we started in middle schools to really give kids opportunities to explore career pathways, we know both as parents or people who've kind of gone through post-secondary, there's other options out there for kids, and this dynamic economy that's changing, we need to do a better job of preparing our students for the needs of local workforce. At our high schools, we have robust dual credit, and you mentioned San Juan College. They've been a great partner to us, and the number of students getting credits going towards acquiring degrees is more than ever. We also have 19 different career pathways to give kids chances to explore. And one of the reasons around that is really kids can't be what they can't see. And the more exposure that we can get either industry professionals or curriculum that gives kids an opportunity to explore their interest in high growth, high demand occupations. So those are two big things. We also recently sent out a survey to over 250 businesses, really asking them the key skills and attributes that they need. We're in an energy economy up here, but just like San Juan College, we want to be nimble to be able to pivot and move and build programs kind of based off of that, and really structure all of our curriculum and work on those other skills. I know Cody kind of talked a little bit about cell phones, and these kids, they're different. Being a high school principal, being a teacher in this day and age is more difficult than ever. And removing those cell phones, really, we saw the attributes coming in from that survey are those attributes that kids were missing because they were so tuned into TikTok or YouTube or other things like that. So them speaking, them being animated, working as groups, solving problems as teams are the attributes that we need to focus in, those soft skills that kids really need to be a productive citizen, a productive worker, and giving back to their community. Another initiative we kind of worked on was our graduate profile, and that was some more surveys early on. But really, what does a Farmington municipal schools graduate, what are the attributes and skills that we truly value and our community values? And we want our kids to be empowered academically. We want them to be innovative thinkers to solve problems. We want them to be socially equipped, kind of going back to that, the product that we give out, and then also community minded. So what can we do as schools? And the legislature with House Bill 63 gave us increased funding in that. So we've been really flowing that down to schools with the intent that we want to get out of our classrooms and get kids to see a PESCO production facility or Basin Home Health Care and get out and see what's out in their backyard. Again, kids can't be what they can't really see.
Well, you mentioned a couple of things. Real recently, I have an employee that's very well educated, and we're pushing out some information using QR codes. And I had mentioned that, like my parents' generation is a really good example. They do not really understand how to do QR codes. But they can use an envelope that's addressed, and they can enter the information, and they can mail it off. So they address the envelopes, but they put the address for our business up in the return address portion, because that's something they understand QR codes, but they weren't familiar with addressing an envelope, which I think this is this is a very intelligent individual, very well educated, but that's not something he's doing. And it really made me think that these are things that generationally, that my generation versus their generation, there's a little, I use them both. This generation with these kids, they're not writing letters and things like that. So these soft skills are really important to us as employers.
Yeah. Thinking about my 17-year-old who's a junior at Farmington High School, I don't know if he's ever sent a letter. He's gotten some college letters in recently, but
it's crazy how the world has evolved that way. That you bring that up, it's funny. I'm thinking I'm twin boys that are 25, and I don't know if they've addressed a letter lately either, right? And we don't send mailers out to our schools anyway. I mean, everything is electronic, whether it be via an email or a text message, or if you have our app. All of our communication, it's cheaper. So yeah, the world is changed, and we need to change with it.
Yeah, maybe ask these kids if they even know what a phone book is.
Yeah, right.
Or if you ask them if they can balance a checkbook, they understand their debit card, but do they understand what balance a checkbook might mean? So yeah, there's a lot of disconnects there, and I think you guys are doing a good job bridging that. So, but you talked about certain career pathways. So what are the ones you're identifying at Farmington Schools to give these guys opportunities?
Yeah, so the current pathways we have a film pathway, healthcare pathway, construction pathway, welding pathway, business pathway. We have a marketing and kind of tied to interior design and fabrics, kind of one of our old FACS programs, culinary arts, hospitality and tourism. There's a plethora, even JROTC counts as one of those. But what we're really looking to do and kind of the opportunity that we have is the old Swinburne Elementary is currently housing our pre-K kids, and the district is building a brand new pre-K facility, which is immensely important to our kids and our community, because the earlier we can get them structured environments, the more successful they're going to be to get across the graduation board and move on to being a productive citizen as well. So with that Kate Center, it currently houses our 2 welding programs, our 2 automotive programs, and also our hospitality program, who's doing a lot with FMS Threads and working to kind of have a Goodwill store of new and lightly used supplies to give to families in need. And then our automotive program is doing some maintenance on trucks and working on other things coming down the pipeline. But I think the real intention of that center and the intention of the survey and a convening we're going to have, we need the right players in the room to really look at the data that our local industry with Four Corners Economic Development and say, what do we see within the next 10 to 20 years in our region? I know we had a power plant close, but there's a lot of opportunities here in San Juan County that we can make it marketable. And if we can show as a district that we're nimble, just like San Juan College, to offer these new programs and having companies from overseas or out of country come in and look at our area with a tariff atmosphere right now, there's tons and tons of opportunity. And we see this center and in helping all San Juan County, like what can we do to make our area more marketable, to get those businesses to come? And I grew up in a community that was a boom and bust. We had a boom for uranium. And then once uranium left, every year I go back and it just more and more empty buildings. And if we're not proactive as a school district, working with our local industries, we could have that reality too in Farmington.
Well, and I think that's one of the things we've always talked about. Being an energy economy, we've seen ups and downs. Cody and I both have lived here long enough for sure that we've seen that through our lifetime. And I think that we're still going to be energy-based economy. I mean, really, I think if you look at the AI power needs that are out there, if we continue to move to push electric vehicles, I mean, there's only so much our grids can support. So energy is going to be really important, but the diversification of our economy is so important. And I think, we talked a little bit before we started this about the changing workforce dynamics. You have a lot of people out there with advanced degrees competing for fewer jobs, where there's a lot of job opportunities out there for people who maybe college isn't where they want to go, or they don't want to spend the tremendous amount of money that education is going to cost, where they can get right into a career and actually make a living and support themselves, is kind of some of what you guys are focusing on. It sounds like.
Some statistics that are just burnt into my head is 50% of tradesmen can retire within the next 5 to 10 years. And that's in most occupations. If we don't get our kids out learning from these industry professionals, we're going to lose it. Kids are working less, they're driving less, and Farmington schools, we embedded driver's education because of that. We need more safe drivers, and some things in the community with kids street racing and stuff, I think we all could benefit from better drivers, right? But beyond that, 65% of kids in schools today are going to occupy jobs that aren't even created yet. And if you look at all of the data of what Fortune 500 companies, all this plethora of data worldwide, where industry is going, we really need to focus in on those social skills and give kids opportunities and work closely with our local industry to meet those needs. Another one that I mentioned earlier too is they're expecting the 2034 census for the first time in history that we're going to have more people age 65 and older than 18 and under. So as a school district, we're probably going to see declining enrollment, but there's a huge need for healthcare for our community that's a marketable. If you look at some of the data locally too, age 65 and over keeps growing. Those other ones keep going down. So if we can put our kids in an occupation or a pathway that they maybe become a CNA or a nurse or a nurse practitioner or a doc, that's going to keep our community alive and servicing our community who's here.
Well, and healthcare is such an important part of economic development. I mean, if you're going to attract businesses or new community members to an area, I mean, you have to have good, reliable healthcare. And, you know, in my industry, and you mentioned it, you know, the 65 and older demographics growing, and the fastest growing job out there, and is continuing to grow exponentially, is caregiver. And having enough people that are willing to go in and take care of these individuals is going to be tremendously important. Identifying that, and, you know, I think, you know, there's a lot of jobs out there that in our community, and we need more people to do them. And I'm hoping, if nothing else, this really encourages, like you mentioned earlier, you know, having these kids want to enter the workforce, because we do need people out there doing these jobs. And, you know, one of the things you didn't mention that I remember hearing that really struck some interest in me is, don't you have a pilot program or some aerospace something?
Yeah, so this year we have two kind of new courses, one at PV, which was really born out of Mike from Farmington Airport kind of contacting us and saying, hey, we found this cool curriculum that is through the Airport Owners and Operators Association. Obviously, you know that Farmington has commercial airlines again, which is huge for a lot of reasons as well, but there's such a need there with air traffic controllers, with maintenance mechanics, with pilots. Again, kind of going back, kids can't be what they can't see. And a lot of this too revolves around the high school experience, right? Me and you didn't go to class for our core classes necessarily. I was involved in athletics and activities, and there's this whole sub group of kids that we're missing the point on. If they can get in a class that they like or they're interested in, and get experience with that, and we can get them in work-based learning opportunities. We have a very robust work-based learning opportunities in Farmington schools, and that's where our kids actually intern during the school day with local businesses, kind of gaining that experience, building their resume. But what's really great about this and having lots of opportunities is if a kid goes into something, they find out, oh, that's not me. They can pivot and jump into something else. And a lot of times, my generation, we did that in college. I think 80% of freshmen changed their majors at least once in some institutions. So giving our kids some exposure, bringing in other people to come in is huge. So the aviation program has been born out of that, and we took one of our engineering and former engineer who's one of our teachers to kind of run that program. And then at Farmington High School, we've started a CNA program with some of our older students to kind of get that certification so that when they leave high school, they're really more marketable. And, you know, a lot of these programs too, industry certifications, we're doing OSHA 10 with our construction, with our welding, and with our automotive. And what that does, it's a lifetime certification that, say they are in our auto program, but then they decide to go to UNM, they have skills that they got in that class, how to change oil, how to change my brakes, that are going to make them a better grown-up in a lot of ways. And then they have things and experiences on their resume that they can get a part-time job or, you know, help themselves pay through college as well.
Yeah, and that dual credit thing, it saves a ton of money.
It does.
I know my son used it.
It does.
It for sure helped cut some time off of his school when he went. And so one of the things I really want to touch on too is, well, the first question would be, how many programs are like this? I know I did get to tour one in Roswell, or Hobbs. A really neat program, similar. But how many programs are there in the high schools in the U.S. or in New Mexico?
It kind of depends based on schools. I think it's really districts that really made CTE a priority have moved a little further. Hobbs is really kind of the shiny stone in New Mexico right now. And that was really born off of the Permian Basin and the explosion that's happened there. We're trying to do something similar here in Farmington. I know there's a Rio Rancho did a collaboration with C&M, and that's kind of opening. But what we're doing, even with this initiative as well, we got a grant to kind of bring in a facilitator to really help us with some of the data, is to build a guidebook and go through our bumps and bruises, what worked well, what didn't, and share that with the rest of New Mexico, because this is hard stuff to do. Bringing in community members to gain kind of momentum to do something special for their community.
Well, and when you talk about those types of programs, we need some help from outside of public education in terms of financial support. And one of the things that I'm super happy for about this initiative next week, at the end of next week, is in schools, we typically say, here's what we do, and if you whatever you get is what you get. And we're kind of flipping that script, right? Where Mr. McMinn is inviting in community partners and saying, what is it that you really need? What is it that these students need when they graduate from school that'll benefit the workforce? And so we've kind of flipped that. So we're excited about that one, but also building those partnerships, because there's no way that we can do this without support from our community, our industry partners, whether that be collaboratively or even financially in some cases.
And I think a lot too, there's a disconnect a lot of times, even post-secondary with industry and K-12 in industry. And for example, welding, right? There's such a need for welding in our community. We have 120 kids sitting in welding booths today. San Juan College has about 90, but we're still not meeting the need and the demand of welders with our current infrastructure and industry. I heard Pesco needed 40, another company needed 130. That's kind of getting up and going. And if we can really look at our programs and bring in industry and say, hey, Pesco, or hey, American Manufacturing, what are your training programs, so that we can do the exact same thing? And some of this may be a donation in time. We're going to take our lead trainer and do some curriculum work and train our teachers so that we can follow that. Another intention, and you touched on this too, is entrepreneurship. Regardless of any pathway that you're in, you're going to need some business knowledge, and also all those baby boomers are going to start to retire, and there's going to be opportunities to buy businesses or create new businesses. But even more than that, if they don't get picked up by locals, it's going to be a national corporation somewhere else that is kind of taking those businesses over. So one of our intentions is, one, build our curriculum based off of the industry and the program we have there. Also planning for new industries that come up and pivoting for those. But I would love to see our welding doing pieces of manufacturing that our kids are doing, that our local industries utilizing. Or for our automotive program, we're one of the only ones up here in the Four Corners. Most school districts for high stakes testing started to cut all of those programs. And those are the programs that keep kids in school, gives them relevancy and kind of a clear vision to the future. But kids that just take 2 courses in a CTE class in the same pathway have a 97% graduation rate in Farmington schools. We're really doing a good job with our graduation rate, but the more we can get kids in classes and forgetting about in the past all those other kids, they're going to have it's going to benefit us all, especially our students, but also our local economy.
Yeah. So if there's students that maybe aren't as interested in books, I mean, ADHD is a thing.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I know very well.
Yeah. And trying to stay focused, but when you find something that kind of engages you, that you're interested in, and then that can help you be successful. And I heard actually Troy Brown, the dean over the trades and technology, that he just recently did a podcast. He talked about the very same thing. You get a kid who actually performed poorly in school and didn't think he was very smart, and they go up to the trades and technology and they excel. And they find their niche, and it sounds like you guys are doing that early, which kind of leads me to my other question. And this might be more for you, Mr. Dill, but you talk a lot, you hear a lot in the state of New Mexico how poorly we perform in education. And one of the things that I've been lucky enough through Leadership New Mexico to hear some of the statistics and some of the things that are going on, and working with you guys. You guys are actually kind of killing it in the state, aren't you? I mean, what is it that you guys are doing, and maybe some of the benchmarks you guys have met or exceeded?
Yeah, so it is tough it's a tough pill to swallow when you hear those things, because we're talking about one assessment on one day that's random. When we talk about the NAEP test that they compare all these states to, random 4th and 8th graders. We don't choose the students, we don't choose the schools, and it's not every single one of our students that's taking that assessment. So it's kind of if we were really to break it down, I would say that New Mexico is not much different than any other state in terms of how we perform academically. But some of the things that we've done in Farmington schools, I mean, in our structured literacy programs, bringing in instructional partners our goal is for 85% of our students to be readers by the time they leave elementary school. People say, well, why not 100? Well, we're at anywhere from 45 to 50%, depending on what school we're talking about. But it's a lofty goal to even get to 85%. I mean, I wouldn't say across the country that's even attainable in most places, or I shouldn't say attainable, or that it's happening. So just setting those benchmarks, narrowing our focus on determining what's critical for a student to be successful, no matter what path they choose, whether that's this path that we're talking about here, CTE, hands-on, or a student that wants to go to college, giving them those necessary tools to pick and choose their own path. But we talk about what school looked like when we were in school, and some of it looks the same. We ring a bell every 50 minutes, and we have 7 classes. But what happens, I walk into a kindergarten classroom, and I'm amazed at the difference in what it looks like today than what it looked like when we were in school. In terms of the rigor and what they're learning, it's different. So, and I'm not saying that that's the way it should be, because I think we're leaving some things behind too. But great school system, and I'm going to say the state of New Mexico. I'm with superintendents all the time, and I would say when you say that New Mexico is dead last, when you look at 50 to maybe 35, there's not much difference. We're in good shape in terms of that, but like you said, some of the things that we're doing to try to up that game is tracking our own critical commitments and our proficiency differently than just that one high stakes test. And then if you look at our social media pages, success always isn't about a test, right? So you look at what Mr. McMinn talked about: 120 welding booths, athletic programs. Farmington Municipal Schools in Fine Arts has been rated the best community for music for the last 8 years. Those types of programs, nobody prints those, right? It's all about that one data point, that one test score. So I welcome people to come in and look at our schools and some of the amazing things that are happening all across. But not only that, the other thing that we're trying to do is to create systems across our schools that are equitable for everyone. No matter where you go to school in Farmington, you should have access to the same high quality instruction, same guaranteed and viable curriculum, regardless of what school you're in. That's not always been the case. Even as a high school principal, I could walk into 2 Algebra 1 classrooms and see 2 totally different not necessarily strategies are fine to have different strategies, but to not even be teaching the same content, that's a problem. And so when we talk about curriculum, we're trying to create systems in Farmington where it's equitable, but across our schools. That should not be a Farmington Municipal Schools challenge. It should be the state of New Mexico. It should be this country that, a 3rd grade classroom in Farmington should have the same level of rigor and the same standards as a 3rd grade classroom in Colorado, in Utah. There's a lot of autonomy in public education that probably hampers our students, I guess, or creates maybe an unlevel playing field. But our kids in Farmington, New Mexico are every bit as capable and every bit as smart as all the students around this country.
Yeah, I mean, our kids went to Farmington schools.
Yes.
And I think both of us can, them and their friends, they're all doing pretty dang well.
Doing all right.
Yeah. And I often laugh when I hear some of these things, and I think, we have really good plenty of case studies of kids that went on and done some amazing things.
Yeah.
Including, did you go to Farmington schools?
I did not.
I didn't either. I did until third grade.
So, no, I was born and raised in Laramie, Wyoming.
Okay.
So.
Well, yeah, I was here until third grade and then left, came back after I got out of high school. And, this community here, I've lived here since. And, my kids have been raised here. And I just like you guys, I want to stay here. And I want my kids to be able to stay here. And we definitely don't want we want our kids to be successful, but I'd love to have them be successful and have opportunities in our community. And that's where my challenge comes in trying to improve that. And you guys are helping support that by giving us a workforce.
And Mr. McMinn says it all the time. I think that he coined the phrase or heard it originally from Sue Cleveland, the longtime superintendent in Rio Rancho. And maybe I'll probably butcher it, but I'm going to say it just because I always hear him say it. Maybe I'll get it right. But New Mexico's greatest export is not green chili. It's our students.
Yes, that's
leaving
right.
our community.
Yeah.
And did I get it right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
close, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. We want our kids staying right here in our community and our community continuing to grow and get better.
Well, and that's one of the things, when we look at economic development, and I mentioned this when I started, there's so many different aspects. And, I think our quality of life initiatives that we have in Farmington and San Juan County are great. And a big push, and I think congratulations to all the city councils and the commissions on things they've done to improve the communities, the way they look. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and it takes an investment with capital outlay money from our legislature. So thank you to our representatives, our senators that continue to invest in for the bonds, for the community supporting bonds. But we have a lot of really good things. We just need to continue to grow, and it's going to take time. And slowly but surely, we are going to continue to do this. And I just encourage any of you who are watching, if you're not a member of Four Corners Economic Development, please join and get involved. Here we have the schools involved. And I think a lot of people will be like, well, why are schools involved? Economic development can't do anything without workforce development. So is there anything you guys would like to add about the programs and what you guys are doing for
I think you hit it pretty good. I mean, I don't know when for those out there listening, but if it's before November 4th, please vote.
Another bond coming
up. So not only that, but just the opportunity, like I said, November 7th, we're running out. Mr. McMinn is on the vision of this career and technical education center and what it's going to look like and grow into. So you're right. I'm not a very patient person, and it takes a lot of time and effort and energy. So looking forward to really great partnerships and collaboration moving forward to try to grow Farmington and our economic development and do our part by when students cross our stage, they're workforce ready.
Thank you. I'll be at your planning meeting November 7th. That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
And thank you for inviting us. And
Absolutely.
I think, that relationship and collaboration, and I just want people who can address an envelope and answer the phone right now. Yeah. Baseline, we'll go from there after that. Phones. Mm-hmm. I mean, the kids, how often they talk on phones, right?
Yeah.
So when you answer an office phone, can you do it? So many things out there, and you guys are doing a great job. So thank you for your time, and thanks for your commitment to helping make Farmington great.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.